The Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion says it is enhancing transparency and accountability of state-owned enterprises through the adoption of International Public Sector Accounting Standards, or IPSAS. Our reporter, Minister Chatikobo, brings us more.
For years, Zimbabwe's public sector has been using cash-basis accounting for their financials. But as the country pushes to meet international trade practices, the adoption of International Public Sector Accounting Standards is something it cannot avoid. The Ministry of Finance says Zimbabwe's implementation of the new accounting standards is at 60%.
Because we've managed to customize the standards, we've also managed to issue the templates which are used in the reporting, we've also managed to train. So the main part which is left is for entities to implement what we've been teaching, what we've been training them, what we've given them, so that we put it in practice.
The accounting standards is part of the financial reporting reforms put in place to enhance state entity transparency. Entities have to adopt this framework by 2025.
I believe for me it's about entities more prioritizing IPSAS and seeing its importance that allows the attitude towards IPSAS to change. But we're seeing a lot of progress. We're seeing a lot of, for me, whilst the number that was reported around entities that submitted 2023 financial statements was 60%, obviously they still need to be audited. But if we're able to get that number to 80% for 2024, what it means is 2025 we can actually achieve 100%.
The Institute of Chartered Accountants of Zimbabwe, ICAS, held a public sector convention which enables Zimbabwe to benchmark its performance when compared to other countries on the transition to the new accounting standards.
Rwanda was a bit advanced in the sense that they are at the stage where they had to come up with the balance sheet for the whole country. We, at this stage, are advanced. But from the Ministry of Finance, we understood that there were some local authorities that were not able to submit their transition financial statements.
Despite these hurdles, experts say Zimbabwe may meet its deadline.
So we are a little bit behind, but I got comfort from the Office of the Auditor General that we are on course to meeting the deadlines for implementing the IPSAS.
The government and ICAS continue to review International Public Sector Accounting Standards compliant financial statements, continuously improving the implementation of these standards. Reporting for ZTM Prime, I'm Melissa Chetkobo in Gweru.
Okay, let me try and explain this to you as simply as I can. You can imagine that we have a huge public sector. Here I'm talking about ministries, government departments, state-owned enterprises. Of course, a lot of them have shifted into Mutapa, but they're still included in what I'm going to talk about. Now, you can imagine across all of this public sector, you have a situation where different units, different ministries, different departments are using different accounting systems and are treating things differently. That's number one. Number two, it's a fact that throughout the entire government doesn't really know what assets they have. The assets do not appear on the government's balance sheet. So as much as you can see a new road, we've just built a new road that's cost $1 billion from Beitbridge all the way to Beitbridge, Harare. Let's say that road just cost $1 billion, okay? Nowhere does that road appear in government's balance sheet currently, all right? Well, hopefully it will now, but it doesn't appear there. So in essence, we spent $1 billion for a road, but we don't have the asset in our books in terms of the government, okay? So, by putting in place IPSAS, the first thing that has to be done is everybody, local authorities, state-owned enterprises, government departments, ministries, have to identify their assets. They then have to value them and put them onto the balance sheet. Now, why is that important? Well, it means that the government of Zimbabwe now has on its balance sheet both assets and liabilities, okay, which means that they can actually leverage their balance sheet in financial times. Now, one of the major issues, of course, about any public sector is the confidence that citizens have in it. All right, and one way that the government can enhance confidence, or the public sector can enhance confidence, is how they manage our money. Okay, because in essence, the money that we pay in taxes or whatever is then used, I would hope, for government in service delivery to citizens. So that confidence level is critical. IPSAS is supposed to come into effect on the 1st of January 2025. However, there is a 3-year window whereby, as teething problems come out and things are worked out, but in 3 years' time from the 1st of January 2025, every single public sector entity should be fully compliant on IPSAS and so on. Now, this also helps the Auditor General, because now everything is the same. You're comparing apples with apples. And even for guys like me, of course, who this is what I do for a living, I now can look at government balance sheets, look at local authorities' balance sheets, and it tells me a story. So it's also good in that regard. So transparency, accountability, good governance is one way that this IPSAS implementation is going to assist the public sector. This is why I say it's an important story, not just for government, not just for Treasury, but more importantly, for you and me.
Konapo, Ipapo pa ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294, the place to be.